Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and always on the rants about MMOs, and I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think MMOs need bigger boobs. And obviously there's like more nuance to it, and there's a lot more to talk about and ramble about, but yeah, MMOs need bigger boobs. And I know we have certain games like Black Desert and namely Blade and Soul that come out looking bombastic, you know what I'm saying? They're straight to the plot. But for the most part, especially games like Elder Scrolls Online, we have a huge, tremendous lack of, I would say, like silhouette changing, really game changing customizations when it comes to the innate, avatar creator. You get in and you can change around certain hairstyles. That's really the most impactful thing that we can do. And even in really in a lot of games, the hairstyles are shared between the different sexes, which nothing wrong with that. But the total pool of like silhouette changing or really defining features that we have are really lacking. And that's namely going to be, I think I want to specify normally male hairstyles. Then you have as well, really that also goes with the beard. We definitely need way more beard and hairstyles overall for men. And then looking at females, the physique options are generally lacking, which is really leading me to like, we need bigger boobs. But I'm also titling the video that and really anchoring the conversation on we need bigger boobs because I do think we need more radical sexualization of the characters because in real life, that's just how nature works. Nature, naturally, we evolved to advocate our sexual desires, our desire to mate, how healthy we could be. I don't know, blah, 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 whatever reason that we have certain shapes that we do throughout the animal kingdom. And I'm saying animal kingdom because a lot of these games have anthropomorphic characters. But anyways, instinctually, primally, we do like certain things. Whether you're a guy that likes another guy or different kinds of guys. You got your daddies and I guess you have your captains. I don't really know the terminology, but you got like your slender geeky boys or whatever. I guess you could say blood elf style characters or the human or orcish style. Like there's so many different, and I know I just used like fantasy races, but there's so many different humans on the planet and we all look so different. It's just really weird to me that when you jump into games like Black Desert, even though you have such a sculpting and such customization to the point of ridiculousness, it still really isn't, I think, good enough or really where I want customization to be, or at least where the fidelity is, which is, it's applause-worthy. All the little tiny details that you can change. But in the end, I'm just going to say I personally prefer it when there's just different races. As an example, in Guild Wars 2, you can choose to be a human or a Norn, which a Norn is essentially like a big human. Like it's like you have your humans, which I guess would be like the average body type across the planet, and then your Norns would be like your bodybuilding Americans or Russians, and that distinction I think is important. And we also need like much smaller people. I guess in some games like World of Warcraft, you do have gnomes and dwarves, and that's really awesome representation, especially for the thickies. And now, of course, you have the new classes with that game. And some games do have like lolly style characters, which a lot of people are offended by. But there's really nothing wrong with that. There are people on the planet who look very beautiful. They're aged. They just happen to be very cutesy and then have foxtails, apparently. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with having all this variety. And I do want it sexualized. I do want the options to have maybe a short, thicky gnome. What's wrong with that? A very cutesy, a very girly, kawaii, thicky gnome. Absolutely. I don't know if you guys ever see the official art for how they draw gnomes inside of World of Warcraft, but they don't look anything like that in game, and they probably should. I would really appreciate that. Same thing goes with Taurens, actually. Taurens are very just kind of bland and pudgy, where if you actually look at the official art for Taurens, they are incredibly muscular, incredibly, I want to say manly, and aggressive. And I want that in my game. It just seems that generally in games, things are very vanilla, except for certain titles where it's like, okay, we get it. Look at Blade and Soul. Hypersexualized, that's both men and women, and that game's customization, I love. I love the art of that game. It's fantastic. Hyung-tae Kim does an amazing job in whatever. Wait, is that a girl or a guy? I don't know. I just know the name for some reason. But they do an amazing job. And sex doesn't matter regardless. I don't know. They do an amazing job when it comes to actually concepting this art. And I really love it. And that goes for most games. I mean, look at the art for Guild Wars 2, which I think they do a great job actually of translating their characters. But the art for most MMOs is fantastic. It looks really great. But sometimes it's like the actual player models, the avatars, really namely Elder Scrolls Online. It's like, man, you have this huge fantasy, you have all these different races, and they're all just really vanilla. And if I could just complain for a second actually about that, specifically Elder Scrolls Online, the armors, the animations really, and the character designs really look very kind of boring. Just TBH, the characters are just very ugly, very ugly. They are so removed from the normatives of what any race, person, culture, I don't know, would consider attractive. So you really can't, it's very hard to make an attractive character in Elder Scrolls Online, and I very much have tried, very limiting overall customization, but in the end, if I had to choose like what's the best character customization, I would have to say for micro fidelity, it would have to be BDO. But honestly, I really liked WildStars, or I prefer Guild Wars 2, or even World of Warcraft. I think that those character customizations, which are mostly focused on presets, you just swap face 1, 2, 3, something like that, just a few hairstyles. I don't care as long as there's a variety of silhouettes. If I'm like a bigger dude in real life and I want to represent myself in a fantasy game, then I guess I would pick a Tauren, maybe a human or an orc, things like that. Now, for me personally, I'm more, I guess, effeminate, or leaning toward more of an anime styling when I play games, more elegance, I think. And then, and then with that skeleton, I like to slap on armors, because you gotta consider that too, is like, what's the art style of the game? So I do, like in Guild Wars 2, I am a normal human, that's fine. And then with the armors on, it's really more kind of fitting for me. But if you actually play, let's say World of Warcraft, so me personally, I am a bigger dude, and I know I'm kind of confusing a little bit, because it's like I'm a bigger dude and I want to represent myself, so why didn't I choose a big, like the Norn class, which would be more representative of me inside of Guild Wars 2? And that's because that's too big once you actually put on the armors. So yeah, in a lot of these games, you do have a lot of characters that maybe seemingly do look the same, like there's not many presets like in World of Warcraft, but once you add on the armors and the art style of the game overall, the weapon, the class, things like that, then things start to get really expressive and comical, and that's a good thing. But for me personally, I would probably choose more like a night elf, because I'm very tall, I'm not like very large and weighty, I guess you could say. So if I pick a human or an orc, that's way too wide. That's a little too bulbous for me, and I'm just saying that, but that's good that there's that option, where a lot of people would just look at a night elf and a human and say they're not too far of a distinction. It's like one's got pointy ears and glowy eyes, but they're very muscular, they're still very World of Warcrafty, but the silhouette and how the armor actually fits on them is drastically different. That's something just to keep in mind, is the clothing and how that all operates with your avatar. I gotta say, Elder Scrolls Online, it's awful. The way armor fits on everybody is really bad. Also gotta say, with Monster Hunter, everyone looks really wide. Is it me, or is Monster Hunter like stretched or something? Why does everything look so wide? I have no idea, but the armor sits on everyone as if we're all just obese, and everyone moves, and it's kind of a little weird. I don't know what's going on with that. But again, something to keep in mind. So depending on the game you play, you might want to make someone extra thin. And this is kind of time to circle back, is we need these more comical or exaggerated, I think, innate skeletons and silhouettes, because when we actually start playing the game, the animations, how we actually fit and see ourselves inside of the worlds might not quite align with when we originally, envision or see our character, which I do appreciate when games actually give us an option to view different like armor sets, in the character creator, like, oh, here's armor option 1, 2, and 3. This is what your character might potentially look like. Also, bonus, and Monster Hunter really needs to do this more, or just a lot of games need to do this more, is different lighting, because you can choose a color and then you see it and it's like, oh, actually, the color is actually totally different when you're in the game. So I would like more options like that. And a big thing that I kind of want to end the video on, if this is fine, if I can just say this, I would love to be able to choose voice options. And this is something that we see in a lot of Eastern games, from Monster Hunter to all those Eastern MMOs. A lot of them let you choose your voice. And I think it's very strange that a lot of MMOs, which aren't even probably voice acted, they're just mostly grunts and roars. I can't believe we don't have pitch sliders like a lot of Asian games do, or Eastern games, sorry. And we don't have voice options at all. And that kind of plays into the whole sexualization, because I want my characters to be more raspy. I guess you can term fiery. I want to be like, like shouting and yelling. I want to be really aggressive, but a little bit higher pitched. And a lot of the times I get in game where if I pick like a larger character, that sometimes I do feel like doing that. Let's say I did feel like playing a Norn. Well, I would want to play a Norn that still had kind of like my voice. I want to visualize myself. So it would be a higher voice, but you get in game and Norns have lower voices. Or generally in games, they are lower. So I would love voice options, please. And thank you. Beard options, hair options for men, especially. And yeah, MMOs need bigger boobs. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's all I got to say. That's what I ranted about. What game do you think has the best character customization in terms of fidelity or in terms of overall, like each character looks like their own? And then also one thing to think about, just to springboard real quick and then end the video, is also think of the cash shop and the cosmetics that the game has. I already said, hey, remember armor sits on different people. The art style is different when you actually get into the game and you actually play. You got to look at the animations, but also like what is the game that actually has the best, I guess, customization when you get into the game, like when it comes to transmogrification and things like that. And I think World of Warcraft does an amazing job. A rogue can look very slender and sleek, or a rogue can look very combat and warriorish, actually, depending on the transmog, which I think is very exciting. So yeah, which games, I think Guild Wars 2, by the way, is my pick. Guild Wars 2 has the best customization in terms of cosmetics later on. So what game has the best cosmetics and character customization throughout the whole full scope? In the end, I would have to say my favorite overall, yeah, I really like Guild Wars 2. I think it's got the right balance of sliders, presets, all that good stuff. And when you actually get into the game, there's a really, you feel like a real connection to the character that you are role playing, especially because of the single player campaign and RPG. And then the MMO aspects, it just all kind of ties together and is like, hey, here's your character, you're part of the world. This is the avatar that you're role playing as. And there's just a lot of customization with that, and it just feels very personable. Really appreciate it, all the way from customization through to the gameplay. So what's your pick for game best customization, and what do you want to see more in character customizers, things like that? So yeah, for me, it's big boobs, and maybe for you, it's like hair extensions, more just hair options. That's also a big thing. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. Much love, bump the thumb, all the YouTube stuff, peel some eyeballs on the Patreon. I don't know. That's pretty much it. I'm out.